Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. As usual, this is my favorite space right here is to welcome our guests because I know they're bringing several things that are very, very expensive, priceless, in other words, time. That commodity that many of us misuse. I know I misused many of it, but in retrospect, all of it was useful to develop me as to who I am today. And it is my hope that you understand the same. And here is Shama coming to spend some of this good stuff, this expensive quality time with us. The other is her journey. It housed who she was and made her who she is today. And we are honored that she's here to share both of these precious commodities with us. Thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Hi, Ken. Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
It's an honor. Introduce yourself to the folks. Tell them who you are. How do you serve mankind?
Sure. Thanks, man. So my name is Kshama Singhi. I'm a Jay Shetty empowerment coach. I've been coaching since COVID, so since 2020, really. But my day job was in pharmaceutical. I've been doing digital marketing, so always been in the serving industry for most part of my life. Um, my own life challenges and my own life's hurdles have taught me so much that now it's my passion to really serve others. I work a lot with women who are having relationship issues. I help them to become clear and move through life with confidence and making decisions with confidence.
Yeah, that
And the
is.
foundation
Go ahead.
of my coaching is the foundation of my coaching is the relationship you have with yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, to a certain extent, you were talking about this before as well. Is that is the foundation of every relationship you have, whether be it your partner, your kids, your parents, or even your colleagues. So the relationship that you have with yourself is the most important one.
Yeah, I think that is the main, and it's really interesting. And when you mention it that way, and even though I know it, but when you mention it, there was a clarity that came into me as you said that. How sad it is when we begin our life as individuals on this earth that no one comes to tell us that that is the very first uh, lesson that one must learn to love self. Had we learned that or had someone to teach us or guide us within that, imagine what an individual will become as they move through their life. One of our custom here, Sham, is to go back. We like to revisit the childhood because the reason why I do that, it's the space by which we were formed. We were given birth, if you will. Lots of belief systems and perceptions we received there that we were able to walk into our life, if you will. And it created who we were until we had to deal with that thing that created us. So invite us to your family and introduce us to that first space that you visited for a few years.
Sure. So if you haven't already figured it out, I'm originally from India, so that's the accent that you can hear in my voice. Um, Yes, I was born in I was born in a joint family. So we were four girls and two boys in the family, a joint family. So lots of kids. My dad, my dad, I had a very good childhood
Yeah.
uh, till the time my dad passed away at an early age.
Hmm.
So I was only 14 when my dad passed away, and since then life has been challenging in every possible way.
Yeah. How did
Um,
it affect that? What did it do to that young girl when her dad um, left the planet and walked into the next arena? What happened to you? You said life became challenging from that point. What happened?
I think as a, as at that point, as still a child, as a teenager,
Yeah,
I think what I was thinking is I'm no longer the princess
yeah,
because I used to be when my dad was around. and I will have to become independent. I will have to grow up.
Yeah.
Uh, so I lost my protective environment, and suddenly I was out in the open, in the wild,
Yeah.
having to battle everything myself.
Wow. That is, as you are looking at the world and you're looking at yourself, and your protector is no longer there, and you're in this journey to protect self and move through life. How did you relate to the others around you? You had your siblings that also had lost him. What was that family unit like at that point in time, as all of you are navigating with someone so precious that has gone, and now you have to manage each other, if you will?
It's funny you asked me this question, Ken, because it was only a couple of days that I was journaling about this, and I realized what happened to me was I'm very much like my dad,
Mm-hmm.
the kind of personality he was. And as you said, I had an older sister and a younger brother. My brother was too young, and my mom was still battling with her emotions, with her insecurities, trying to figure out life herself,
Yeah.
and how on earth she's going to bring up three kids without my dad. So she was in her own little world,
Yeah.
which was not helping. And I just didn't get along with my mom at that point. I didn't agree with a lot of things she was doing at that point. So subconsciously, I took on the role of being my dad in the family.
Mm.
Although I had an older sister,
Yeah.
and nobody asked me to do
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
but subconsciously, I just stepped up. I felt like I need to start earning, I need to become independent, I need to get over all the, in my mind, all the mistakes that my mom and my sister were making. I gave myself the role of being the mature one in the family.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting how we pick up those roles, if you will, um,
Mhm.
because I know similar things. And as I mentioned before, what some of the folks say that when I'm finished with them, Shama, they feel like they're on this couch. Remember, I told you about that.
I'm getting there, and I'm already getting there.
So here you are with your family. You took on this role, and you realized that you had done it, and you're moving through life now. You're looking forward in your space, you're looking out. What did you see, Shama, when you started looking out as to what your future would be like? What was it that you began to notice as this young girl? And then she began to make the adjustment as she is moving forward in her life.
So, one of the things as a child, I've always felt insecure about my looks. I used to feel insecure about my looks,
Yeah.
and I didn't think I was worth a good relationship, so to speak,
Yeah.
because of my looks. So, I focused a lot on my career, and the way I looked at world was uh, a relationship might happen, but I don't really deserve a very good or very happy relationship. And I was more into giving than receiving in relationships at that point.
Yeah. That is interesting,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah. As humans, where did you pick that up from as far as your looks? Where did you pull that into your space and agreed with it? Do you remember
100%.
that?
Like I said, we were a joint family, so there were four other girls. We were almost the same age, not too far off from each other.
Yeah.
Um, so my sister and one of my cousins, they were very fair.
Hmm.
And in India, at that point, fairness was beauty. And if
Yeah.
you're on the darker side, it's not you're not beautiful, basically. That was the mentality. So I remember doing things, and I was also always chubby. The grown-ups loved me because I was this chubby child,
Yeah.
always happy, but it was not doing anything for my self-esteem.
Yeah.
uh, so I remember doing all sorts of things, going to the gyms, doing fat diets, putting fairness creams on me. It was a part of my life, trying everything under the sun
Yeah.
to change the way I look.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating to take that, and now it is a part of you as you're moving through your life, Shama. And you're looking at college and those type places versus marriage and so forth. Which road did you pick and why did you pick it?
In terms of college,
Yeah,
I I just chose. I was like, the host with those. I don't know what the binders. I think it's
yeah,
called. Like you can focus only on one thing at a
yeah,
time.
yeah,
I had become that person. I was just, I was just filtering out anything to do with relationships. I was focused on my studies, focused on my college, focused on my career. But uh, boys would ask me out for a date, and I would totally ignore it
yeah,
because I didn't think I deserve it.
yeah.
And then at some point, my mom decided to move towns, and I decided to stay back. It was like almost I was there to prove a point to my mom. At some point,
Hmm.
all I was trying to do was prove that I'm good enough to my mom.
Yeah. How old were you at this place right there?
It was just before I turned 18 that she decided to move
Hmm.
towns,
Yeah.
and I decided to.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. I remember living my life to please my parents. And I tell people that I did not become Ken Primus until I was in my 30s because I had
yeah.
to, and I remember that incident that caused that break where we had a falling out, if you will. But I was standing up for me and my family and my belief. And I remember because I did that, it caused a rift with them because I wasn't anymore. The incident that caused it was I believed it so strongly that I stood up to them for like the first time in my life, and we kind of like that was the beginning and the birth of Ken Primus versus just living for my parents. When I was in my 30s, man, so I remember that. So here's this 18-year-old girl. She is immersed in school because she doesn't feel that she deserves any good relationships. She doesn't feel that she is beautiful in any way, shape, or form. Um, Shaman, that's a dark place to be. How did this young girl begin to manage herself with all of that? Just that cyclone of dark thinking is surrounding her. How did she begin to move forward with all of this coming at her? What was her focus, and how did she maintain?
It's something, Ken, what you just said. At that point, I was very confident and I felt strongly about what I was doing.
Yeah,
I was very confident. My mom was so upset with me, but I was okay with it.
yeah,
It did hurt, but I was willing to pay the price of doing what I really, really want to do, which is like become independent, focus on my career, stay back in Mumbai rather than moving towns with my mom. So that made me the black sheep
yeah,
of the family and the rebel of the family
yeah,
at that point. Um, but it was having an impact on me. So as much as I was doing what I was doing, and I think I had gone too far to be able to turn back, I just loved the life I had at that point
yeah,
without the drama of the
yeah,
family,
yeah,
uh, so to speak. But I think what was happening was somewhere in my deep conscious, I was feeling that I'm the bad daughter,
hmm,
and I was taking on more and more of guilt that I'm not a good daughter. I didn't support my mom. Um, I shouldn't have, I should have moved with her, should have supported her. All the things like I was doing it. At some point, my confidence started to shatter.
yeah,
Internally, I didn't show it,
yeah,
but I think my belief system was changing, and I was starting to feel that I'm not doing the right thing.
yeah. It's I yeah, I've been there, man. So here's this girl. She is beginning to question her ability, question herself in the sense of her the one thing that she felt was hers, her confidence, now begin to erode. and she has to live. And so she's now doing her life and so forth, and all of this is closing in on her as she's moving through her life now, and she is experiencing, maybe expanding, getting some freedom. She feels a little, less traumatized from family and all of those different things, and she's moving through. Bring us into her days as she's walking around and she's plotting in her head. What was she looking at, Shama, and where was she wanting to go?
Um, like I said, I think at that point, and because my own limiting beliefs, because my own belief system was being questioned whether I'm doing the right thing or wrong thing, I was on a mission to prove something to my mom,
Yeah.
to prove that the decision I took by staying back and living alone is the right decision. So I was on this mission, and and in my mind, the only way I could prove that is by becoming successful in my career.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, the first few years of my dad passing away, my mom was still financially trying to sort things out,
Yeah.
trying to understand what's there, what's not. So finance was a big thing for her at that point.
Yeah.
So in my mind, all I was trying to do was prove a point to my mom that, look, I did the right thing,
Yeah.
and it's going to help you, and it's going to help me, and it's going to help the family. So I was on this mission of just growing my career, just proving and just doing things to please my mom.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Even though she's not there. So here you are striving, you're achieving in, uh, as they say, your career, you're moving into your career. As you climb in your career and so forth, and you started to achieve the things, if you will, that you can quantify to say to yourself, yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm getting up there. As you begin to do that, and your career is expanding and you're growing, and you begin to see all those changes. What was happening to that wonderful young woman, Shama, while she was achieving all of these wonderful things externally?
I was becoming the man that I didn't have.
Yeah.
Ken. I was becoming the man in my life, which obviously I didn't know at that point. I was moving so much into my dynamic energy,
Yeah.
leading stuff, taking control of everything. I also became a control freak at some point. I was like, I need to control everything. I need to plan everything. I need to do
Yeah.
this. So that kind of person I was becoming.
Yeah.
Till, till then, uh, the society started asking, when are you getting married?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, there's no winning.
When they started sending those questions to you, what, how did you start receiving them? Because you were spending most of your time shunning that, not wanting to deal with that, and trying to get all of the other aspect of yourself in place. When those questions kept coming, because I know the culture, when they kept coming and coming and coming, how did you handle it?
Um, I think the more the questions came in,
Hmm.
the more my self worth went lower and lower and lower.
Yeah.
My confidence went lower and lower and lower, because that was an area where I had already made up my mind. I don't deserve love. I don't deserve a good relationship.
Yeah.
So when it comes to my career, I had become very confident. But when it came to my personal relationships, and also given the fact that my relationship with my mother was so skewed,
Yeah.
um, it was an area of low confidence. So I in India, there's something called arranged marriages,
Hmm.
where the parents, uh, the guy or the girl for you. I said yes to that. I was like, okay, fine, if you can find somebody for me, just
You give up the work to them, so you just bring them to me. I'll do it. uh, and as they brought this young gentleman to you, I know your heart is on the floor because you want nothing to do with this, in the sense that you weren't prepared for it. You were never really uh,
yeah.
looking at that. When it presented to you, what started to happen to you, Shama, as you're standing there, and all this thing that you've been running from is now face to face? How are you dealing with this?
Yeah. And I think that was probably one of my biggest lessons I learned during my divorce is I said yes to the first person who said yes to me
Yeah,
because of my own confidence, my own self-worth. It was so low.
yeah,
It was mopping the floor. So I was like, fine, whoever says yes to me, I'm just going to get married.
yeah,
In fact, my well-meaning cousins, I think I remember when I said, and everybody, it was announced that this is I'm engaged to be married now. My cousins called me. You're like, you're Shama, you're so much better. Why are you going? Is there a pressure on you? We are with you if you're doing this under pressure. They could see it,
yeah.
but I couldn't.
Yeah, it's always the case because that happened with me before. Everyone else could see it. And what I've learned in life, Shama, is that uh, people that are in close proximity to you and I are there for a purpose, many of them. And they're there to expose us to our scotomas, those blind sides that we are not aware of. They see it, and we don't see anything because we are so familiar with it, and it's a part of us. That when they bring it to us, the response is usually, if it's sensitive, and usually it is, we tell them back off, shut up, stay out of your, mind your own business, all those type of stuff. We will respond with, not knowing that the purpose of them, true purpose, was to do exactly what they just did because they loved and cared for you. And they saw something in you that you deserve better. And they will bring this, um, you know, I see something about you. And I was, as my reactive way was, I was one of the best sailors, if you will. I could cuss with the best of them. And then as I began to embark on my personal journey and I saw the purpose and the reason for my friends, um, I used to welcome um, those points when they would bring it because then I saw something I needed to address and they brought it to my attention. So they brought it to your attention and I can tell your response. So when you when you responded and you got married and you were in this relationship, what happened to you, Shama?
So when we got married, we moved countries. So we moved from India to UK.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a new marriage, new family, new country. I lost my old friends. Well, obviously at that point it wasn't so easy to communicate.
Yeah,
It wasn't. We didn't have Skype and WhatsApp, which was free. So it was harder to keep in touch with my friends and my family to a large extent. But also because I had already formed my opinion against my mum,
yeah,
I did not confide in her on what was happening in my life because we were distance wise, we were so far,
yeah.
and emotionally, we were so far. I just chose to keep everything and just keep taking on whatever the challenges are without being able to share with anybody.
That is a I've said this many, many times. A marriage can be one of the loneliest places to be, you know.
Yeah,
And in
yeah,
many cases, it is because we weren't, we married for the wrong reasons. And when we are in it, because of cultural things, societal things, all these different things that put the pressure on us to stay in this um, this thing that is slowly killing us. And
yeah,
eventually, one day, we look at it, and it's truly life or death, and you just kind of bail when you get to that point. So here you are,
yeah,
you were within that as you're moving through, you're not able to share with your mom. You're just taking everything, making the adjustments, and trying to manage your way through your day of visitation. And I read what it was. When that day of visitation, and we talked about the red flags are flying all day long. Started with your
yeah,
cousins, with the red flags. And so we ignore those things until that day of trauma comes in. That day of trauma, after the trauma took place, and you're there by yourself. What was that like when everything that you worked for, everything that you thought was right, when everything has come to nothing, and you're there with
Mm.
yourself. What was that like?
It was a moment of truth. It was my birthday,
Mm-hmm.
and I said I made a decision. I'm not going to cry anymore, and I'm going to do something for myself. That was the first time where I thought, no, I have to do something for myself. So I'm going to cook a nice meal.
Yeah.
But I couldn't think of what I like to eat
Mm.
anymore. What should I cook?
Yeah.
And that was my biggest realization. Oh my God, I've completely lost myself. I don't know who I am
Yeah.
anymore. And that was also the day when my mum said something very interesting, which I'm never going to forget, is all the things that she and I argued about in the past.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I want you to be the same person that you were when you were arguing with me. I want that Shama back.
Yeah. And what happened when she said that? What did it do to you?
It gave me, so my relationship with my mom turned around
Mm-hmm.
with this, the day, what you call.
Yeah.
So my it's completely turned around. It's taken a U-turn. Now we are like friends,
Yeah.
best friends. Um, but what it did was it gave me that power. Suddenly I realized that that is who I was,
Mm-hmm.
not this.
Yeah.
I was trying to dim myself down. I was trying to be a good wife by adjusting and sacrificing. I was trying to be someone who I wasn't.
Yeah.
And that was part of the problem.
Yeah, I remember mine too. I remember, and I've said this story a couple of times. I was in my car coming back from a meeting that I had, and I'm driving on the highway, and I'm thinking about my marriage and my situation. And I realized, I said to myself in the conversation as I'm talking to myself, that you can make it work, Ken. But what would you have to do? And I remember saying this: you would have to die. Ken Primus would have to die in order for that to happen. And I asked that question to myself: are you willing to die? And Shama, I stopped my car, pulled off in the middle of a highway, jumped out of my car, and started screaming, I'm not
Yeah.
going to die. I'm in front of my car, screaming at the top of my lungs, yelling, I am not going to die. I'm not willing to do that because I do not know who that person would be. And I don't want to be that person. I am not going to die. I got back into my car, head back in, and I knew what I had to do. So here you are. You are now on the journey to find out who you are. You have a lot of dark thoughts about yourself. I'm not pretty. I don't deserve all of this. I don't deserve to be loved and all of that. What were the first steps? What was the first decision you made once you said, I don't know who I am? What was the first decision you made to get to know who you are?
Um, so obviously there was this revelation that I need to work on my inner self
Yeah.
and be able to know myself and be able to just be okay with being alone, because at that point having somebody else in my life was not even a thought.
Yeah.
It was about, because I had a 5-year-old at that point. I knew I had to survive, and the only way to survive is to get through this, be a winner out of this situation, because I wasn't prepared to be the mom who's in her pity mode, you
Yeah.
know, who's expecting the daughter to look after me. I just knew that I cannot. I think the other thing was, the pain travels through generations. My
Yeah.
mom had marriages and she lost 2 husbands uh, to death.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, Somewhere I thought that this is the pain that I'm carrying from my mom,
Hmm.
from the generation. And at that point, I just made a decision. I'm going to try my best to stop this for my daughter. And I have to do. I think that was the motivation. So I made a decision that I have to get out of this situation. I have to come out as a winner. And the only way I can do this is by working on my inner self. I knew there's no other way to get out of it.
Yeah. I call that space. And I tell people, until you get there, Shama, you will always live that circular life. You have to come to a place where your decision is so you believe it. It comes from the inner you that you make this declaration, if you will, that I am not going to do it. I am going to do that. And then what happens is that you begin to execute what you had just released. How did you begin to execute? What was it that you began to bring into your life to achieve what you had just said that you will not allow happen?
Yeah. Uh, I think my biggest support was my faith. I had no idea how I could turn around so many years of belief, of feeling unworthy, not beautiful, not lovable. I had no idea if I ever could change that around
Yeah,
and how, if at all. All I knew is I need to work on it and I need to give it a try. So the first and the foremost, the first step was become aware of what is it that I really want to do.
yeah,
Is to feel pretty, to have my confidence and my self worth back, and that is where I started to become aware of what do I really want. And I made so I do a lot of journaling. For me, it was writing every day, and for me, it was writing to God, writing to the universe that this is what I need. I don't know how, I don't know what to do. Please help. And then things just started happening. It took a long time.
yeah,
It didn't happen overnight. But small steps, small things. The fact that I feel absolutely beautiful now.
yeah,
I have no complaints. You won't hear me complaining about how I look
yeah,
anymore. I don't even feel that way anymore. It's not only that I'm not talking about it. I don't even feel that way.
yeah.
And I am the way I am. That's how I am. If somebody has a problem, they're free to walk out of my life.
Hmm. I love that. I love that when one gets to know the self, that you become uh, in love with self. You know, I am not perfect. I am who I am. And I am
Yeah.
on this journey to learn more about me. If someone is willing to come into that space and we are on this path, I am open to those type of things. And so, but I am on this path to get to know who I am. It's my responsibility. And so, as you begin to write the vision down, there's a Bible scripture that says, write the vision down so that those that hear it, it will motivate them to do something. And those that hear it is you because you're saying your
Yeah.
vision. And so I have 300 stuff that I wrote down on there,
300.
300 of them that I
Oh,
write
wow.
down. And so I wrote it down and I meditate on it and I think about it. And every so often I'm checking off things as it happens because we ought to be speaking it because it says, speak it as the hearer hears it, they will believe it. I am the hearer of my vision. And so I write it down for me. And so I always tell people those are, and if you're listening to us, Shama just talked, she's talking about one of those tools that you guys hear me talk about that you can bring into your space to help guide you out from your dark space. It is journaling, one of the most powerful out there. The other is meditation and yoga and all these things. But yoga and all those other things are parts of meditation. So is journaling. Everything comes back to that meditation because you have to go in to extract all of those things and then write them down. It is a form of meditation. So as you learn to meditate, you become, I read this book, as one become masters of their thoughts, they can now begin to design their life. Master of your thought, meaning you pick and choose which one you will give permission to come into your life to become fruitful and bring an outcome that you want from it. And that's when you design. So here you are. This woman didn't know how I'm going to do it, but I know what I want. I know. And she begins to navigate now. Journaling, you begin to incorporate that as you are journaling and you're beginning to see things and insights about you. What were some of those things? Because those are dark perception of yourself. ugly, and all these other things. As you begin to notice, and you carry this with you from a young child, as you began to notice that they were subsiding, if you will, that belief was shifting, what did you begin to notice about you as you saw it shifting and you're getting more and more confident about you?
Um, you don't, I think, because the shifts are so
It's
small,
small, yeah.
you don't it's not like every day you're having a breakthrough moment.
Yeah.
At least for me, it wasn't like I'm not having breakthrough moments every day.
Yeah.
I'm still struggling every day,
Yeah.
and I'm still writing, and I'm still going on. There are days when I don't want to go on. I think, but at some point you look back,
Mm-hmm.
and because of journal, you look back and you see, okay, I had said this is really what I want, and look what's happening. So I had this, one of the beliefs, for example, I had was, oh my God, so many men have rejected me, because for me, him cheating on me was him rejecting me.
Yeah.
And I felt like, oh my God, I don't want to be in a position that, I get rejected anymore. And by then I had built my self-confidence, I had built my self-love, I was out there in the dating world, and I was out rejecting men outright, because I was like, I can't do this. I don't want, not at that level.
Yeah.
So I was just journaling one day and I was like, oh my God, this is one of the things that I had asked for. And what we often forget is to look back and see how far we have come.
Yes.
So that gave me the fuel to keep going, because you feel it's tiring,
Yeah.
it's tiring. You can get tired. It's lonely, like you said. Nobody else can know you so intimately. You don't want to share everything
Yeah.
so intimately with another person, at least not yet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always the not yet. You will find that person where the goal with your mate is, there's a scripture in Ephesians says that um, you have to be able to be naked amongst with each other. And to me, that
Yeah.
is such a powerful imagery, because what does that reflect to me when one is naked before each other? Not physically, but we're talking about in every aspect, emotionally, all of that. That is one of the most vulnerable place that two individuals can live and exist. And to have a relationship that vulnerable, to me, represents tremendous amount of power that this couple have as an individual, because who can damage that? If my mate knows everything about me, she knows I am naked before her. If someone comes and says something different, she would look at them and say, I don't know what you're talking about. I know
Yeah.
him. He has been naked before me, and I am naked before him. And so that individual will not allow outsiders to damage the entity that is that relationship, because they see the value in it. And so that to me is powerful. You keep hanging on there and make sure that you have your list, because I had interviewed this woman, Shama, that said to me that she had her list for her husband, and she had the list down even to the ugly sweater that he would be wearing. I never thought of anything about an ugly sweater, but she, in her mind, said, and she wrote it down. She told me, she pulled out a picture and showed it to me. She said, this is the ugly sweater that he showed up in, because she wrote that down. Because she said she wanted to make it such a strange thing that when he did show up, she knew that was it. And I thought that was a lot of wisdom within that, because we are the ones that are sending out the energy to bring that individual in. And so she wrote down to the ugly sweater, and I saw, because she made a statement. She said, when he showed up with that sweater, I knew that he was the one that I had written on that paper. It was that ugly sweater. Wasn't that was so fascinating to me? So write your list.
So amazing.
Write your
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like driving a car without knowing where you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I always say this to my clients is you need to first decide where you want to go before getting into the car.
Yeah. Yeah. And you make the adjustments and so forth. But here you are, you have learned much. You have gone through, you are now going through your thing and you're moving through in your life. You're journaling, you're learning about who you are. At what point in time in your life, Sham, did you say to yourself, I need to start to become a coach and began to coach people? Because here is this girl that has such a interesting beginnings and she's putting her life together and she's becoming strong. You're battling with one of the strongest things that a female or a lot of people, not just female, there's a lot of people are struggling with image, liking the image, getting in love with the image and who they are internally. You dealt with it, you saw yourself walking through with it, and at some point you said, oh, I'm going to become a coach. How did that come about?
It wasn't as clear, to be fair. It wasn't as clear. So obviously, all the work and I'm still doing my work. So I just want to be honest. It's not that I've done everything. I'm still on this journey, and I think I'm just a few steps ahead
Yeah.
than some other people. So as a coach, I'm not saying I claim to know it all. And also, I did a lot of self-help books.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did realize is ultimately I needed an external help.
Yeah.
So I went for this. It's a seminar. I think it's called a seminar
Mm-hmm.
because I had nothing better to do over the weekend.
Yeah.
I went for this seminar thinking I've done it all.
Yeah.
You can't help me. I know it all. I've done it all. And then she invites people to come on the stage. So I went on the stage, and I'm very confident by then to go and speak about my challenges and how good I am
Yeah.
and how much I've changed. And I went there and I started crying. I could not get the words out. I could not say how good I was. I just as if like my inner self was just waiting
Yeah.
for that to happen.
Yeah.
And I just started crying, and I got one of my biggest breakthrough about feeling guilt.
Mm-hmm.
I was living with this guilt, so I got my breakthrough on that seminar with my coach, and I was like, oh my god, I couldn't have done this without her. So I started to appreciate the external help that I was getting, and then I started giving that to one of my friends who was going through a similar challenge. Like she was going through, Asian families can be very difficult.
Yes.
Asian in-law can be very. So she was going through her own challenge. She wanted a divorce. I started coaching her, and she's like, "Why don't you become a coach, like officially?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, I never thought that. I really appreciate my coach. I think I can now start doing what she's doing to me.
Yeah.
I can do it to the others." So that's how it started. But it wasn't. And even then, I was like, "I'm not sure I want to do this. I have a good career."
Yeah.
But somehow it just kept repeating. The message kept repeating
Yes.
till the time I'm like, okay, I'm getting on a certification course.
Yeah. It's usually that, and I tell it. It's always something like that, something that is organic, you know, and it's not something that a lot of us are looking to do or just think. It just happens organically, and I believe that is the planting of the idea. It needs to be planted. A seed needs to be planted in order
Yeah.
for it to grow, and it's usually in some conversation or you may have read it in a book or whatever, but that seed begins, it launches, and usually when it launches it will draw other energy to the seed, and then you have to then begin to look at it and go, wait a minute, I think I'm being drawn into this area. And that's usually how it is. It's usually a little small organic thing. And as you were being cleansed, and I tell people that when we are cleansed from trauma, based on the individual, it will manifest in many different ways. Some people crying like yourself, some people's laughter, some people is just a silence, a deep silence. However, that passing, meaning that has to be released, it has to come out from you because it's been there residing for so many years and a part of you. And once you cleanse it, this newness of you stands there and you find yourself lighter, if you will, than when you were off the stage. And when you were on the stage, when you came back down, you had lost some weight, if you will. So here you are, you went through the class and you're coming through, you had your first client, a friend, and you began to see as you were talking with her and guiding her. Because you had to go through, and I tell people there's a need that caused you to go through where you went through. There were people on the other side, Shama, that needs your help, like this friend that you had. She needed your help, and you had to go through. And so now you're able to help her and others. So here you are, and you're helping others. How does that feel when you look back into your pages and you began to look at that girl from page 1 to today's journal of yourself? What do you see when you look at that?
It is one of the best feelings. To me, it feels like I found my purpose and I found my passion.
Mm.
Because I believe, and especially people who are doing inner work, they know that we are here to serve others. This is the biggest, it could be as simple as just being the best family member or being whoever you are for your friends, your family, your parents, your kids.
Yeah.
And for me, I knew I was always into helping others. That was always my thing to go to. So when I started realizing, and when my clients started to get breakthroughs, it was one of the best feelings that I was getting. And the fact that when I was starting my journey, this healing journey, I used to always think if I can change even one person's life because of my own story,
Mhm.
then I would consider the challenges I've had as successful and worthwhile.
Yeah.
And here I am, where I'm able to have an impact on more than one person.
Yeah.
So for me, I think, and again, it goes down to how clear my thinking became, because I remember thinking, if I can change even one person's life,
Yeah.
it's worthwhile. All the challenges, all the pain, it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Obviously, my biggest motivation is my daughter. If I can change as many things for her
Yeah.
and stop that much pain for her, I'm sure she'll have her own set of pains.
Mm-hmm.
But at least if I can stop some of the pain, I can already see that.
Yeah.
So when I look back, I already feel like I'm successful.
Yeah.
I don't need to earn a lot more. I don't need to have 100 new clients.
Yeah.
In my mind, this is success.
Yeah. And that is powerful because there are two journeys that we are called to go through on this life, two of them. The first is to know who you are. You have to know who you are in order to embark on the other journey. And I tell people we are called to have we are independent. And we need to go through the journey as an independent individual to know who I am first. Because that is the springboard by which you will embark on the other journey. The other journey is just as important as the first, but you cannot do the second journey until you do the first. There is the interdependent journey that we are called to walk as well. And that is the journey of a servant. Once you become aware of who you are so excited, as Shama said, to just reach one. You don't want the pain that you went through another person to go through. And so you will share your journey and your insights and how you came out. And when you do that, you are embarking on the interdependent journey. One leads to the other, and they're both beautiful. And I call all you guys that are listening to this conversation, and I have someone, and I keep telling people the coaches are guides. They are simply individuals that have gone through some dark times. And because they have gone through some dark times, the dark times that they had in their life is a roadmap that they have been designing. Life has been designing a roadmap. And so they're familiar with some of those potholes, those dark spaces that you are clueless about because you have your family, You're working, you have your 9 to 5, you have responsibilities that you're not really looking at it, but you are on this quest to learn about yourself, and having a guide from your conversation with that guide, they will locate you. They will know exactly where you are. And the beautiful thing about them is that they know the question to ask you that you're not able to think about because of your busyness and you're not focused, but because they have been through it. They know what to ask you because they know the outcome that they will get from that question. And so you'll see them asking that question. And a lot of times they have this grin on their face, or they have this smile on their face because they see the outcome before you even know. And so they ask that question because they know when they ask that question, you will have this type of response. I didn't see that before. I didn't know that I could think like that. I didn't know, and that was the purpose of why they ask you that question, to make you aware that you should know. And so find a guide. And guys, I have one for you. Shama, those women that are listening, she talked about being there as a support in relationship type, because many of us are in relationships that are degrading to our being. I have someone that can guide you, and I will provide everything for you to have access to her. And I suggest that you get into her space, get help so that you can be escorted into this newness of you, who you are, the power of you, the strength of you, the wisdom of you, and you will understand joy and all of things. She's going to provide you the tools that you will use to help you out so that you can recognize how beautiful you are on this planet. Shama, I want to thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment. You have been precious to us, just inviting us to your space.
Ken, thank you so much for having me. I think this conversation has been very, very valuable to me. The past hour or so, it's like a flashback of everything that happened in my life. So, again, a reminder of how far I've come. And I'm so thankful for you for this conversation.
Thank you so much.